I'm Dominique DiPrima. Welcome to the Front Page Saturday Town Hall Edition, brought to you by Community Build, City of Los Angeles Council President Emeritus Herb Wesson, serving Council District 10 since 2005, and the Independent Professionals Association. They're small teams making up a large section of the American workforce. You can find out more about them at indiework.org. That's indie with a Y, indiework.org. All that will be up at KJLHradio.com. Ask a doctor. I'm feeling sick. What do? I have a question. My family member is feeling sick. Call us right now. Dr. Paul Wallace, MD, with us. He was a former Army doctor and is the owner of Wallace of Beverly Hills. Dr. Noelle Reid, a board-certified family medicine physician, and she's also in private practice, and she is on Married to Medicine. And, of course, we're being joined now by our friend. He's an account executive here at KJLH, ever of COVID-19 himself. Rod Edwards, good morning. Thank you for calling. Thank you for sharing your story.
Good morning, Dominique.
Ooh, we've been praying for you, Mr. Edwards. We've been praying for you real hard around here at KJLH.
And let me tell you, I appreciate each and every prayer and blessing and well wish. And it literally, with the grace of God is what got me through this.
So you had COVID-19. At what point did you know that you had it? At what point did you say, this is something serious that I have to deal with?
Something. So I try to give you like a brief story. So I went to dinner with my daughter on a Saturday and came home just not feeling right. And so fast forward to the next week, and, we have, conference calls and whatnot, and I just wasn't feeling right. So halfway through the week, my wife said, we're going to take you to the hospital if you don't feel any better. And basically, one of the things I want to impress upon people is that...
Excuse me, Rod, one moment. I'm hearing something in the background. I'm not sure what that is.
Just how beautiful you are.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, just want to impress upon people is that, again, I didn't have any symptoms other than what I thought to be perhaps like a winter flu or just not big congested in my chest. And then come to find out that, and then we're going to the hospital. And basically, that was the last contact I had with people for, 3 weeks or so.
Wow. And you were in intensive care. You were very sick.
So basically, right? Yeah, after when my wife checked me in, that was on the 21st of March. And I went from there to them figuring out that I needed a ventilator. And I had a ventilator and was in ICU for another, probably 6 days. And then again, like I said, by the grace of God, I got through it and, back on the road to, being well again.
When I'm reading, when you come off a ventilator, it's not just like magically, ta-da, you're off. I mean, there's a process of rehabilitation, almost like your lungs have to get back used to breathing on their own. And there are some after effects, right? Yeah,
so literally what the initial effects, the initial symptoms, what I had was pneumonia in my lungs. And so I needed, assistance with breathing. And so they made a decision to use a ventilator. And then I was in intensive care ICU for, another, probably, I literally just got out of intensive care last week. So.
Wow. That's a long road. And from what I'm reading, now you're doing some rehab, right? You're not just like, I'm better, now I'm, ready to go to the club.
Yeah, there is so I'm in just rehabilitation, just, to basically, if you're been being, laid up as long as I was, it's just a matter of getting the muscles moving again and your body learning, almost kind of relearning some of the simple things you do on a daily basis, like was really difficult. Up until a few days ago, it was actually even difficult, to walk down the hall. So, again, just trying to impress upon people like COVID is for real.
It definitely hit home, of course, for us at the radio station. We love you. And, of course, everybody, working remotely now. Some of us, I know I self-quarantined for a couple weeks because I thought, well, I don't want to get anybody else sick just in case I've been exposed. And most of us did do that. What about your family?
So they, and so initially, my wife, actually, when she had had an inclination that I was sick, just to be, not even COVID, just sick in general, she basically quarantined me to my own little space in the house. And so, fortunately, I think that was a brilliant move on her part, because I think it literally helped, prevent them from, me transmitting anything to them. So they once I was put in the hospital, and they had to self-quarantine on their own, but fortunately they've been fine.
What a blessing, and smart lady, your wife, because let's maybe Dr. Reid, you want to explain. I mean, there are protocols. If somebody in your house is sick and they're tested positive for COVID, even if they don't have to go to the hospital like Rod did, they do have to be isolated, right?
Yes, so we are, recommending self-isolation, where, essentially the individual needs to stay in a room by themselves, with a closed door, and hopefully have a bathroom that they can use and not share with other family members. And typically, if they are having to be in close contact with, other family members, that they would have to wear a mask, the family members would have to wear a mask. The family would have to be vigilant in, disinfecting all of the high-use areas on a consistent basis. It can be rather challenging and really difficult, too, for a lot of families, especially when there's multiple family members in the household and you only have so many rooms, to be consistent with that. But, those are typically the guidelines, is that you do self-isolate for really a minimum of 7 days from the onset of symptoms. Or at least until there's been at least 3 days without fever, without the use of any other over-the-counter medications.
3 days with no fever means that you're considered better?
Well, typically, what the CDC guidelines is that from day 1 of symptoms to day 7, or 3 days of without fever, without the use of like a Tylenol, whichever is longer, would be the recommended period of time for self-isolation as it stands now. I believe it should be longer because I do think that it's likely that you're still infectious after that 7-day mark. So that's what the current CDC guidelines are now for self-isolation.
Well, it's confusing because they're saying we can walk around for 2 weeks not knowing we have it, getting other people sick. But then after you don't have a fever anymore, you're not contagious anymore. And, what if the person is still coughing, but they don't have a fever? Or what if, they're still having other kinds of symptoms? Dr. Wallace, you have... Oh, go ahead, Dr. Reid.
I was going to say that's another guideline. So if you are still... symptomatic. So if you're still having respiratory symptoms like a cough or shortness of breath, that would be another reason to continue self-isolation further beyond the 7 days.
Dr. Wallace, you want to add to that quickly?
Mm-hmm. I'm totally agreeing. What we've gotten used to is the 14 days, and that certainly is a very good safety period. The 7 days is the minimum, and again, that's with at least the last 3 days of you not having any type of fever, any type of temperature, and you cannot take any fever-reducing medication like the Tylenol, which was mentioned earlier. If someone remains symptomatic, like you said, they're still coughing, again, we don't want to have any bravado and saying, well, I'm going to be okay, I've already passed that time. It's still extremely important in terms of using the personal protective equipment, wearing the mask, disinfecting afterwards, and not being cavalier and saying, okay, I've just passed the time. That time is a general one that can be painted across the board, but for you as the particular individual and your family members and people you come in contact, you want to stay isolated as much as possible up to 14 days.
We continue to have a lot of questions. In fact, I'll go to one before I ask my next question. We're going to go to Mary Doyle calling us from Sacramento. Good morning, Mary. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. I appreciate you streaming this program to Sacramento. Sometimes we don't have access to wonderful programs like this, so thank you so much to you and your staff and your guests there. The question I have is, the governor, I listen every day, and he has not mentioned whether the prisoners that he has released have been tested for corona. Do you have any information on that?
I know they're testing the prisoners for fever while they're incarcerated. I don't know. I haven't specifically read about whether they're letting them out and testing them. I can't imagine they would let them out and just not even take their temperature or anything. Dr. Wallace or Dr. Reid, do you have info on that?
No direct info, but if they were at all symptomatic, they would not be released.
I don't have any direct info.
I'll look into that more, Mary Doyle from Sacramento, and hopefully you'll listen Monday through Friday. We do this 4:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. We do talk with the front page, and I will get some answers for you on that. We're going to go to George from L.A. Hi, George. George,
Hello?
You with me?
Hello?
Oh, that's not George, I don't think. Hi, who's this?
This is Mary from Compton.
Hi, Mary from Compton. You're not George. What's on your mind?
Okay, they kind of answered the question about the antigen testing, because I live in an unincorporated area. I worked the polls. On the 3rd, I caught a virus, and it was like a head cold. And now I'm having like itching in my ears and my sinuses. I wonder, is a nasal rinse good to use for that?
Wants to know if she should use a nasal rinse. Caught the flu. I guess it doesn't sound like you're worried that it's COVID. Any answers for her?
Yes, well,
I
think
that she's currently having symptoms of the flu, and she wants to know if she can use a nasal rinse.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we recommend for cold and flu, typically it's symptom relief. So if you are having chronic congestion, a saline rinse can be helpful to remove the excess mucus, as potentially remove pathogens or viruses that can be sitting in the nasal passage. So I think that's fine in terms of aiding with symptom relief if you want to use a saline nasal rinse.
I agree.
All right, Mary, feel better. Take care of yourself. We haven't talked a lot about it, but rest is a huge component. Rod, you said your life is changed by this. What did you mean by that?
Just in the sense that, and thank you for all the information from all the doctors that are on the line. But one of the things that that people keep in mind is that I was diabetic and have been diabetic for many, many years. And so it most certainly, the doctors even said that it, compromised my immune system and hence, obviously allowed, the COVID to affect me. So one of the things for us, just as people in general, is we need to most certainly take heed to, your good health and, things that we do on a regular basis. And, from that aspect, most certainly try to, take care of ourselves. Literally, drink your water, take your vitamins or whatever it is that, you do on a regular basis that's going to, help be preventative as opposed to, reactive. So.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of different conditions, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they're saying now that, African Americans are more likely at this point to die from this is because we do, with diabetes is one of the many indicators things that make this more problematic, right?
Yep. It is most certainly. And like the other thing is, and this is one of the reasons, like I said, I wanted to just speak with you, is that, as you alluded to earlier, a lot of us are out there, in the streets still as if we're Superman or Batman or whatever. And it's like, man, just go in the house, stay in the house, find something to do. I heard the gentleman earlier talking about, having relations with his multiple partners. And it's like, just stay in the house. That's what the, stipulations are right now. And it may be difficult, understood, but that literally is what, is helping hopefully contain the virus and hopefully put help, curtail it.
I guess I want to ask, one of the things I wanted to ask before we get out of here, why are so many people dying from this? I mean, it sounds like a dumb question, but, and people say, well, more people die from the flu, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if that's really true because we don't have full testing and we don't know, there can be plenty of cases of people, getting sick and we think it's another reason, or maybe we think it's the flu and it's this. I mean, right now, what's your take on that, doctors?
Well, I think, first of all, we're dealing with a virus that is highly contagious. So the estimates are that for one person that's infected, they could potentially infect 2 to 3 other people. And it's a virus that fortunately causes mild disease for most, but can have very grave outcomes for others. And so that means that it can be more difficult to contain because those individuals are not in the hospital. The majority of individuals that are affected are likely in the community or in their homes able to spread it. And when you have more spread, then that's going to affect the numbers of those who have, more significant outcomes. And so just in terms of being able to control it, it makes it challenging. In addition to the fact, not just those having mild disease, but there's estimates that approximately 25% of those who are infected don't have any symptoms. So those, people may be walking around thinking that they're not sick and, they're not in danger of passing anything on to others, but they are shedding virus and spreading it. So I think just in terms of how easily this virus is able to spread makes it challenging. But also for those who are vulnerable, when they do get to a situation where there are complications, it appears that, it's affecting more than just the lungs. So there's been some case reports out of Washington State, New York, China, that, this virus can potentially not just affect the lungs, but also the heart, the kidney, the liver. So, it's not just battling one organ system, but there are, individuals that once they get into a very grave state, that now not are you just challenged with addressing their pneumonia, but now they have kidney failure and have to be placed on dialysis. Or now they're having liver dysfunction, or they're having heart inflammation. And so they're at risk for heart failure. So it appears as if, for some people, I don't think we fully know why, they're more one set group than others. But for some people, when you get to a point where it becomes a highly complicated case, it affects multiple organ systems. And so that, of course, can potentially lead to death. And that's what we're challenged with at this point.
Let's go to Jackie calling us from Inglewood. Good morning, Jackie. Jackie, you with me? Jackie from Inglewood. Okay, I guess she is not there anymore. Let's go to Lisa from Los Angeles. Lisa, you ready? Okay, I don't know what's going on with our callers. Jackie from Inglewood was asked, are you there, Jackie?
I'm here.
Okay, you're on the radio. Go.
Oh, my question is, when they breaking down the counties, I would like to know what's going on in Inglewood. Since I live in Inglewood, I'd like to know, is anyone dying in Inglewood?
Well, Inglewood is part of LA County, but what I know is 145 cases. I don't know how many deaths. I don't think there are many, but I don't have a number on deaths. I just have 145 people tested for sure having it. I'm sorry I can't bring you more information about the death toll. Does anyone else? Can anyone else weigh in on the outlook for Inglewood specifically?
No, I can't do for Inglewood specifically, but I also wanted to add the fact a lot of people aren't quite understanding. Let's just put it that your immune system is working at all times, and it's fighting off all types of problems. And one of the questions or one of the thoughts on why this is so deadly is that it takes up so much of your immune system, other problems that you might be having. And that's why they're saying those who are hypertensive, those who have kidney problems, those who have lung problems, those who are having liver problems, the immune system that may be fighting off what's going on there is no longer available. So those things are, those organ systems are failing along the way. So, again, it's just extremely important that you protect yourself. And if you aren't so concerned about yourself, those that you come in contact with, it could not only just be because you're wearing your mask, your clothes, things that you've touched, things that you pass on. This is why isolation is so important in containing this disease.
Okay, we had a caller earlier asking about Roland Bynum. Roland Bynum is fine. You might be mixing him up with Roland Ritt, who passed away and was Wirt. Who's an institution here in Los Angeles, and that is not Roland Bynum. Roland Bynum is fine. He's working from home like all of us right now. Lisa, are you there? Lisa from Los Angeles.
Hi, hello.
Hi, you're on the radio.
Yes, hi, good morning. I have a quick question. Is there a shedding phase after the fact?
Great question. Shedding after the fact. After the fact, I assume means after you've gotten better.
Correct.
Dr. Wallace, you want to tackle that?
The answer is probably. And we, again, try to average things out. For example, you heard us talking earlier about 7 days of and making sure that you're asymptomatic, that you aren't having any problems for a minimum of 3 days in terms of fever. That's, again, a general, but as was mentioned, perhaps on day 8, day 9, and day 10, you still are shedding or you're still contagious. So what we want to do is to go to the larger date, if we could, if it's at all possible, to do the 14 days. That gives a better margin of safety.
Thank you, Lisa.
So I think it's still unclear in regards to how long we shed virus, even after symptoms have resolved, and it may be different for each individual because there have been case reports where individuals have been tested for COVID-19 even weeks after they have resolved and still tested positive for the virus. So I don't think we fully know, how long we could be infectious or be shedding virus. So again, that's why I agree that really in terms of self-isolation, it should be the longest possible and likely beyond 7 days. But hopefully 14 days is sufficient. But I think we still need to get more information in regards to that.
Rod, what are your doctors telling you about that, about how long to be careful?
In order to get into the rehab facility, I had to take two more COVID tests that both had to show negative, and that has been 14 days. Obviously 14 days since I was first diagnosed. So I do know that although I'm tested negative twice now for the virus, as the doctors have alluded to, there's no test that show whether or not it can be, you can contract it again. I mean, sort of who's to say? Again, it's just, I think the best defense right now is to try to, against, protecting your family and protecting anyone you come in contact with, is sort of adhere to everything and the stipulations that are out there right now. Wear your mask, stay in the house if at all necessary. You know, I would agree that probably further than 6 feet rule, 6 feet isn't very far.
Yeah. Veronica from Los Angeles, good morning.
Morning, Dominique. How are you? Thanks so much for this special show. Listen, I have 2 quick questions. The first one is, what fabrics are preferred, or which one are better for you to breathe? The natural fibers, which I assume, or the synthetic ones? Which one protects you better?
Okay, and your second question
with this virus?
And your second question, real quick.
Pardon me.
Your second question, just quickly.
And the second question is, the ones that you buy on Amazon that are coming from China, are they safe?
Wow. Okay, who wants to talk about masks? Dr. Reid?
So I believe that the fabrics that are coming from China should be safe. I don't know if it would be necessarily considered not safe to use. And as we know that the virus, you know, even if it were on a particular material or surface, it only lasts for a certain period of time, from what some of the studies have shown, anywhere from a few hours to a few days. But I would say anything that you receive from China or otherwise that you're putting on your body against your skin, you should wash it beforehand. So washing it with soap and warm water, putting it in the laundry should be sufficient to rid of any virus.
Right, and so if they're paper masks, you're not going to do that. I'd be careful, though, just because I've seen, you know, articles about the city of L.A. and others getting ripped off, you know, not the city of L.A., but a union here in L.A. getting ripped off by buying from a shady person that never really had masks. What material, Dr. Wallace, is best, real quickly?
Natural fiber certainly works well, but again, I want to emphasize more. Any fabric covering is far, far, far better than none. And remember that fabric needs to be washed every day. If you have paper mask, although, again, one might say that that's better, they're supposed to be disposed of and you use a new mask.
Right.
You can use handkerchiefs. You can use undershirts. You can use a variety of different things. If you go on the Internet,
right.
There's all kinds of innovative ways.
Got to leave it there right now, Dr. Wallace. We'll be back with more. It's the front page Town Hall edition. It is brought to you by the Independent Professionals Association, Council Member Herb Wesson, the City of Los Angeles, and Community Build, Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.